Hello everyone and welcome. This marks 1 year since I bought Half-Pint, March 31st, 2022. I see you folks had a lot of questions about the truck and what went down and what's planning to be done to it in the future. But before I get into all that, a few of you wanted to know the story. So let's take a little trip back in time before I even bought this truck.
It all started way back in late 2020, early 2021. I began searching across sites like Marketplace, Ritchie Brothers, and Iron Planet for a fairly priced project truck. It was looking pretty grim in the beginning. Many trucks were priced crazy high, had a problem, or were too far away. 90% of the trucks I found in great shape were located in either Texas or California. Given that I couldn't drive the truck home, I had to find something closer. In mid-February, I tried bidding on a Pepsi 4700 in Missouri. Unfortunately, it sold for way more than I offered, selling at almost $7,000. Later that month, I nearly bid on a plow truck but soon threw out the idea. That was until one night I stumbled across a listing of a simple white 4700 in the cab and chassis section, located in Maryland. The starting bid was $500, and there was very few watchers. I placed a priority bid of $2,500 and went to sleep. At nearly 9 a.m., I received a message congratulating me that I had won the lot at only $1,200. I will never forget that feeling of triumph. After sending the payment and getting in contact with BRS Trucking, I had her trucked home. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay, with the backstory and history out of the way, I'm going to get into your questions. First starting with, what is Half-Pint and what's the engine and transmission? So Half-Pint is a 1997 International 4700 with an incorrect hood badge. The hood of the original truck must have been destroyed or damaged at one point, and since the 4700 and 4900 series trucks are interchangeable, they used a hood from a 4900 to replace it. Built in February of 1997, this truck has a 7.6-liter DT466E with an Allison 4-speed transmission and a wheelbase of 188 inches. It also has a spring suspension and air brakes. Because this truck is not used for commercial, does not haul passengers or any sort of hazardous materials, and is under 26,000 pounds, this truck does not need a CDL to operate. Half-Pint's chassis configuration is a 4x2 on 22.5 standard tires. There wasn't a whole lot of information detailed about Half-Pint's previous assignment, but we did eventually figure it out. This truck in particular used to be an electrical construction truck. It has onboard PTO mated to the transmission. That, and the only other clue we got about this truck's previous life, was the toolbox directly behind the cab, which had electrical equipment inside. When looking at the passenger side door at certain angles, you can see the previous owner's DOT number and logo. Half-Pint was originally owned by Carr and Duff Electrical Construction. One question I was asked is if Half-Pint is running a straight pipe currently, and it is. Upon purchasing the truck, it had a standard muffler, but soon after I removed it and added this 90 on for a temporary. When the truck is finished, it will sport dual 5-inch mitered stacks, one on each side of the cab. This will also be straight piped. I think now is a good time to answer the question that everyone keeps asking me. Why is this truck called Half-Pint? When it comes down to it, it's not all that complicated. We were just sitting around one day and we were trying to come up names for the truck, you know, like everybody does with their semi-truck. Given that this type of truck in particular is in between the size of a regular pickup and a full-size semi, I wanted to give it a name that sounded like it was in between, not too big but not too small. Think of it this way, a half a pint of whiskey, not a full bottle. I'm gonna follow that up with another long-asked question. Why do I have a Tonka truck strapped down to the frame? And again, it's another really simple answer. A lot of truckers, for whatever reason, if they're pulling a flatbed or whatever, strap down a Tonka truck or some sort of toy to their frame when they're not hauling something. I don't know why, maybe it's just to make kids laugh and smile, but it sure does the trick because I get more people taking photos of this truck than I do the actual truck. Not only that, but the Tonka truck also has a significance to myself because I used it for ages when I was a kid. This thing probably has more miles on it than this International does. The next question isn't asked as often, but it's still a good thing to bring up. When Half-Pint is done, it will be converted into a pickup truck. I didn't post about it recently, but I actually just bought a Ford dually bed in the 1999 to 2010 year range. The frame will be shortened to accommodate the bed, and the bed will go on. Then, dual mitered stacks, a custom bumper, and a custom visor. To top it all off, a metallic bright red paint. With the way prices of things are going right now, I can't really say a good estimate of what this truck is going to cost when it's all done, but I can say for sure it's not going to be a huge deal. And I can tell you right now, I do not have that sort of time or money to spend on a truck. Okay, so far so good. With all of the exterior questions out of the way, I think it's a good time to step inside and show you what the interior looks like. So this interior was in pretty bad shape when I first got it. I'll put some pictures up on the screen so you guys can see. There was actually a hole in the floor covered by a small plate. The dash was cracked in several spots. The panel across the shifter was cracked and chipped. And a couple of my buttons and lights didn't work, such as the lights on the heater gauges and my turn signals and headlights. In my playlist covering the stuff I've done to this truck, you will see that we cut out the entire floor on the driver's side and replaced it with sheet metal from Home Depot. Then I got a bunch of sound deadening foam from Amazon and I stuck that fast to the floor. Once that was in, I ordered a 5-foot by 6-foot gym mat and put that down as the new rubber. The dashboard itself is pretty simple. It's all just spray cans from the local hardware store. Simple white and a simple apple red. The steering wheel I ordered from Rainey's, which is a really good color match. Going a little further in, I have a chrome International Harvester brake knob that I got from 4 State Trucks. Looking up to the CB compartment, I have a Cobra 29 LTD Classic. Fitted with a power mic and a gear keeper, so it snaps back when you're not using it. Some Internationals came from the factory with power windows, but as you can see, I do not have those. I also replaced the stock tape player with a new JVC Bluetooth stereo. And looking underneath both sides of the dash, I added red floor lighting. When I first brought it home, the old mileage read 206,929. Now it reads 208,792. Which means in the last year, I put 1,863 miles on it. As for the hours, I put on 106, it being 2,401 from last year's 2,295. With any other vehicle, you might start worrying about expenses and stuff falling apart at 200,000 miles, but that's nothing for a DT466. People don't even start to worry about these Internationals until they start reaching upwards of 500,000 miles, and I will never put that many on this truck. One other thing I've talked about previously was the 4-speed automatic, and I have talked about switching it over to a manual one day. I think these trucks sound awesome with a manual transmission, and if you haven't heard one yet, please do yourself a favor and check it out, because it is truly awesome. With all of the interior questions out of the way, I figured I'd get into the stuff relating to you air horn fans. Half-Pint sports the original Grover 1600 air horn, nicknamed the Truck Tone. This horn was stock on any International 4700 or 4900 series that came with an air horn package. Sometimes it came with a 1601, only meaning that the back caps and the chambers were chrome. For a little while, Half-Pint's train horn was a USA RC3 train horn. This thing was a mock-up of a K3LA, and while I liked it, I don't think it matches what I'm looking for.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I got in contact with a guy who repairs and sells air horns, and he offered to trade me the RC3 for a Leslie RS3L, which I couldn't resist the offer for.
Now, what you've all probably been waiting for, I can follow up that information with the sounding of both of the horns. First, here's the stock international horn, the Grover 1600. And as you can hear, it echoes pretty dang far. And quite possibly in the biggest contrast ever, here's the Leslie RS3L on my Horn Blaster's valve. And that sounds way better. I believe somebody asked in the comment thread if I was going to put boat horns on it, and while I think that's an awesome idea, I don't think I will now that I have the Grover 1600 on there. There actually are a few internationals, both the 4000 series and the S series out there that do sport boat horns on the roof, so I won't do the same thing. I actually bought a set of Grover quad horns, two 2000s and two 2001s. And if I had bought those before this 1600, I think I would have put those on the roof instead. There is not another international out there that has those horns. Now with all of that out of the way, I can get into some of the memorable moments you have asked me for. I guess I can lead in and say that anytime a kid or somebody does the arm pump at you, that itself would be a memorable moment. But there aren't that many kids in Bangor other than myself that do the arm pump at trucks. I can only recall of 2 times. Once on my first day out in the truck before it even had an air horn, 2 kids were standing out doing the arm pump at me from a yard sale. Unfortunately, I just had to give them the city horn because what else was I going to do? The other time was when I was coming down Broadway in Bangor. As soon as I saw them doing the arm pump, I did have a horn and I gave it to them. As for my favorite trip or convoy, I'd have to say driving up to Hartford, PA for their truck show with everybody from the local crew was pretty fun. I was actually surprised that I was able to keep up with them, considering this truck only goes about 55. Our lineup was Hoffman's F model, Abbott's MH, Decker's Autocar, and me. On a different note, for the most memorable or crazy moment I've had on the road is a little different. On my first long trip out, I was heading to the Macungie Truck Show for 2021. I took a back way through Emmaus because I didn't feel like driving down 78 anymore, because if you don't know, 78 kinda sucks to drive on with a truck with no weight on the back wheels. Anyway, we're going down this side street, and I'm coming up on a 4-lane intersection. I'm looking around, and I'm not seeing a stop sign until I get right up on it and I realize there's one there, on a telephone pole, blocked by trees. I step on the brake. The only problem is, in doing so, I don't have any weight on the back tires, so the truck just slides out. Pops was behind me and recorded the whole thing on the dash cam. I'm just glad I noticed there was a stop sign when I did, or else I would have plowed right out into that intersection and probably would have crashed into some poor innocent person because I couldn't see the stop sign. I definitely blame Emmaus Borough for that one on their part. That tree didn't just pop up overnight. And with that, I lead into my final question I received. When will the driving video come out? I'm not really too sure on this one, as much as I wanted to do it, because I don't have any sort of way to mount my camera in this cab somewhere. It seems like a really good idea, but I don't have a GoPro, and I don't really feel like spending the money for one just to do that. So needless to say, I need to work on a way to record the cab footage without giving everyone a headache. Well, now that I've covered just about everything you've asked, I'm going to start her up and let you hear it.